for opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this very important hearing on fentanyl and what our committee and committee jurisdiction can do to stop the scourge of fentanyl. I very much appreciate the witnesses being here, Police Chief of Spokane, Chief Hall, and Mrs. Ellinger. So sorry for your loss of your son, Jake. You are such a brave advocate, and thank you. There are many brave advocates like Laura Lynch, who talks in Seattle about the loss of her daughter, Brilliant, and you are making a difference, so thank you for being here today. And I look forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, as we fight this scourge and work within our committee jurisdiction. Of the 10 states with the highest number of drug-related overdoses, they all host major intermodal hubs. That is to say, states like mine, Washington, and yours, Texas, are clear nexuses to transportation networks. I think we're going to hear from Chief Hall about how those networks allow for the distribution of fentanyl once they are across the border. And overdose deaths continue to rise in most Western states, up 14% in Washington just last year. The supply chain is clear. The Chinese triad sells precursor chemicals to Mexican drug cartels hidden on ships and in air cargoes, and cartels make fentanyl and smuggle it through the United States. They hide fentanyl in personal vehicles, commercial trucks, buses, trains, planes, and even on unmanned aerial vehicles. So this is a danger to our national security and our transportation security. It is very highly toxic. So it is, Mr. Chairman, the jurisdiction of our committee to have oversight over transportation security. Last year, I fought for more non-intrusive inspection technologies at U.S. Customs and Border CBP, who I know we'll hear from as well, about how it now has 370 large non-intrusive inspection systems and more than 4,000 small systems across various ports of entry. I've seen firsthand how this helps us detect better the next generation of technology. Vapor technology could be developed by our Pacific Northwest Lab and the University of Washington to increase even the speed and accuracy of this analysis. Our national lab's Vapor ID accurately detects and identifies the vapors from illicit drugs and explosives in real time in extremely small amounts. Rather than using surface swipes or the pulse of air for analysis, the system sniffs the vapors much the way a trained canine can detect explosives. So our borders are not our only problem, but this fentanyl detection at our borders is working. We need to do more. Fentanyl smuggling happens every day within the borders of our country, on our interstates, on our Amtrak, at our bus terminals, at our airports, and concealed U.S. mail. And we must track the activities of these transportation networks. Recent interdiction efforts in the state of Washington illustrates the importance of joint law enforcement efforts at our transportation hubs and networks. Just last October, we had the largest coordinated drug trafficking bust in Seattle, 600 officers from 10 different states, local law enforcement agencies, and they disrupted a violent drug trafficking gang. It resulted from a wiretap investigation of a shipment of fentanyl into the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. A year-long investigation was led by Homeland Security, the Seattle Police, involving the U.S. Attorney, FBI, DEA, ATF, CBP, Washington State Patrol, the King County Sheriff's Office, and Bellevue, Everett, Renton Police Departments, and Yakima Narcotics and Gang Task Force members. And in January of 2023, law enforcement also conducted a bust at SeaTac, discovering more than 400,000 fentanyl pills in a checked baggage of drug couriers. Traffickers were smuggling millions of pills into Puget Sound. The Port of Seattle Police Department, working with DEA and K-9, seized that fentanyl, and the Phoenix Police Department then arrested the suspects in Arizona. In 2024, the Burien Police Department, King County Sheriff's Office, and DEA seized more than 1 million fentanyl pills and meth and heroin, and traffickers transported hundreds of pounds of drugs in a semi-truck on a regular trip from Southern California into Washington. So we must give law enforcement more tools to attack these transportation networks and stop the flow of these drugs into our states. Chief Kevin Hall of the Spokane Police Department with us today has worked closely with federal, state, and local law enforcement for more than 30 years. He'll be speaking to this experience in Eastern Washington and what he calls the superhighways for fentanyl distribution. As an enrolled member of the Colville tribe, he also knows that tribal communities have been hard hit by fentanyl crisis because it's another place to hide these drugs and these rings. And that is why last year I introduced with Senators Baldwin, Lujan, and Rosen the Stop Fentanyl Smuggling Act, largely supported by law enforcement, transportation, and forensic science groups, including the National High Intensity Drug Area. And so witness Shannon Kelly is a director of the National High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program. She's also a member of the Interdiction Coordinator at the Office of the National Drug Control Policy. So I look forward to asking her about this and the ways in which we can all work together to stop the flow of fentanyl, accelerate the development of next generation non-intrusive inspection technology, and build state and local forensic science capabilities. So I hope that we all can work together collaboratively. I think it shows that we can disrupt this trafficking. So I'm very pleased to work with you, Mr. Chairman, on these issues, and I appreciate your focus on the Coast Guard's critical role in this area. I know that the Coast Guard has been working, but we need to do more. I want to acknowledge that the crew of the Coast Guard, Washi, who interdicted more than 37,000 pounds of cocaine worth $275 million earlier this month. I'm also, though, saddened to hear that a crew member was lost at sea, so our thoughts and prayers are with their family and friends. I think Senator Cruz, you and I have introduced this bipartisan Coast Guard Reauthorization Act, which would increase authorization levels, and I hope that the Coast Guard's critical counter-narcotics mission and other missions will be bolstered in our efforts. We need to do everything, as you have displayed here, that if you leave a territory unaddressed, that is where the drug will flow. So attacking this at all levels is the right idea. And so look forward to working with you as we in this committee tackle the transportation networks that are threatening the lives of young individuals and many more Americans. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.